Over the winter I was trying to design our off-grid homestead, and I was about to make a mistake that apparently a lot of people about to go off-grid make this mistake, because every expert that I talked to preparing for this project warned me not to do this. So for now, do we want to keep them in here?
I'll start reeling and pulling up.
It's been a while. A long time ago. This is probably 11 years ago. I designed my very first homestead garden with zero gardening experience. And you can probably guess what it turned out to look like.
Didn't it end up being the pig pen instead?
Yes, it did turn out to be the pig pen.
Because it was so big, we couldn't keep up with it. We had weeds everywhere and nothing grew.
Eventually, we just let the pigs in.
You know what you did next?
What?
That was one of our first videos, raised beds.
I like the idea of having a garden. Some years we've done really big gardens that have done nothing but fail. The first big key that helped us in actually having a successful garden was building a few raised beds.
You know, you wanted to be able to garden like a gentleman. You wanted to be able to stand there, weed, and drink a beer.
Actually, no, I wanted to be able to sit
in
a chair after a long day of work.
Right.
And that was a garden that I designed with at least some gardening experience. And of course, that garden did way better. Look at those beautiful tomatoes, those tomatoes, and all of those. That garden, our raised beds, we actually got more produce out of our raised beds than any other garden we've ever had. So you see the pattern here, right? Look at those beautiful tomatoes.
So we reevaluated our life. We've been on a family farm for 5 years managing. We know now we wanted something smaller, something off-grid, and we thought we could do this because we've been homesteading for 13 years now, right? We know how to design a homestead.
When we started designing our off-grid homestead, we did realize there were a few tiny holes in our homesteading experience that we needed some help with. So we went to some experts and we did interviews with them based off, you know, where we needed some help.
Right, so for example, we've never designed and built our own home. We've bought them or we're in my family's home.
Yeah, so we talked to somebody about building a home specifically off-grid.
When you are going off-grid, do your homework.
And we really want to be very energy conscious, so we wanted a more passive house.
So we interviewed somebody who built an earthship because that's a completely passive house.
Never used rainwater for our own drinking system.
So we interviewed somebody who has experience with rainwater catchment. We interviewed somebody with a composting toilet.
So we've got a lot of hours of interviews about all this stuff.
Maybe you're noticing what we noticed. We have a ton of experience in the world of homesteading, and that's why we were ready to design this. But we're pretty new to the world of off-grid. It's like a whole new thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because approaching this project, we looked at our 12, 13 years of experience as a benefit. Look at all this experience that we can pull from to help us design this homestead. And in some ways, yes, that is good experience to have. But in other ways, with this huge switch from on-grid to off-grid, our experience is almost like, it's like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was an amazing basketball player, right? Arguably the best basketball player of all time, right? Being this incredible athlete, he decides, I'm gonna go play baseball. Do we remember that? Michael Jordan's baseball career?
And why not?
It was better than my baseball career. He did good, but all that experience he had in basketball did not directly translate to a very successful, amazing baseball career, right? It just translated to
now did skills he learned in basketball, like being,
you know, all
super
those basketball
muscular,
skills,
being very athletic,
awesome at layups,
like knowing how to train really hard and not giving up when things get tough. I'm sure that
those
carried
were
over.
good, right? The basic athleticism, but like you can't dunk on the baseball field.
Yeah, so
we're not that into sports, but it was a really good illustration. We don't want this to end up like our very first garden. And that was the warning we kept getting.
Come on. You coming? Dummy.
Always, right on it. Honestly, the first time I ever heard this message from a off-gridder with experience, I was talking to the guys over at Gridlessness, and they explained their off-grid journey.
both love camping and hiking. We're totally used to staying in a tent for a week or two. And we thought, well, why don't we just start camping? We'll figure out which priorities kind of bubble to the surface, right?
What they said was they just every moment assessed, what do we need next? They didn't design this huge fancy off-grid home and water system. They just set up a camp, lived off-grid, and said, what do we want next? It's funny because this is the same advice that I heard talking to
Annie and
Jay from Blue Rock Station. They built an earth ship. They said that they tell everyone,
when we're given advice, we give advice freely. Usually we don't follow our own advice, but we, because the first project we built was the earth ship.
Yeah, but we didn't know that was what we should have done.
But we always say, build a birdhouse first, then maybe a bookcase, and then build your house, because you might hate it. You might get into it and just absolutely
But also you can fail like crazy in a birdhouse and nobody's dying.
don't start with your home. Although that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what they say from experience they've learned. Don't start with the home, build a chicken coop. Logan from Heirloom Builders, he built an off-grid home. He said the very first thing he did, he built himself a bathhouse.
That was kind of the prototype to really get me out onto the land in a way that was kind of dipping my foot in the water. I'd never lived off the grid before, and it's a scary endeavor. And if you've never done it before, there's way more questions than there are answers. So I wanted to kind of start small, build a prototype, and that bathhouse was the prototype. That was what really allowed me to figure out some basic systems on collecting water, to figure out how to charge batteries with solar and how to use them to pump water for showering, and to experiment with gravity-fed biological sand filtration, which is what we use for all of our domestic water.
He learned so much on that one little bathhouse that to this day he still uses on his off-grid homestead.
I want a bathhouse.
I want a bathhouse
Did you
too.
take baths in it?
Well, actually it's a shower house, but he called it a bathhouse. Got some sheepies out. Last winter, we had our family next door. They raised St. Croix. St. Croix, what else? Wiltshire Horn St. Croix crosses. They had a couple bummer lambs, and they said if we wanted to raise them with a bottle, they could be ours, and they're breeder stock. Good stock. So we thought, the girls like bottle feeding babies, and I like having breeder stock lambs. So now we have a small little starter herd of our own homestead, homegrown lamb. Ooh, so good. When you boil it all down, the warning that everybody kept giving us was essentially make sure before you go design your entire off-grid home and start building this, big house and big solar system.
And you pour all the money you have into it, and then you're stuck, you've got nothing left, and you're unhappy because you messed something up.
Get some experience. Live in a tent with a bat house. Bat house.
Oh, a bat house.
I don't know about that.
Rabies.
Rabies creeps me out. I can't tell you how many times I tried to design our off-grid laundry, rainwater, and the questions of how much water do we need off-grid? How much will we go through with a composting toilet? How many volts and amps do we need in our solar system? What is a volt or an amp? Public school failed me there. We don't know. That's the point. That's the point, right? We don't know. Not yet. Here's what we're gonna do to change that.
It doesn't mean we're not going to do it.
No.
This is still something we're...
Oh, what?
What are you laughing at me for?
That'd be funny if we were like, so we're not doing it because we have no experience. See ya.
No, it doesn't mean we're not going to do our off-grid homestead. We still are moving ahead with it. We're just slowing down and kind of dipping our toes in the water off-gridding.
We're headed to the land of the off-gridders.
You're really excited.
I am really excited. Do you want to know where we're going? Find out in the next, no, I'm kidding. We've held this off long enough. Unsubscribed.
All right, I need a 5-minute break in the shade.
Officially getting hot out
And
there.
we still have to do those last 2 reels.
Oh, when you said reels, I thought Instagram.
No.
That's how you can tell I've been off of rotational grazing for too long. We are headed to Alaska.
It sounds crazy. This was not something we had planned last year, but Austin talked to a yurt company that was based in Alaska, and it kind of got the wheels turning when they talked about how many people in Alaska actually do the off-grid yurt thing. And because that was something we've been considering, we thought maybe that was a place where we could go to get more hands-on experience, even talking to people who are already living this life.
We wound up finding an ag lease for a property that had a small off-grid cabin.
We got in contact with the owner who had this ag lease. We reached out to him.
We pitched the idea that we could come and do some rotational grazing with livestock.
And he accepted our offer, our proposal on what we wanted to do with the property. It was really cool because it had nothing to do with Homesteady. So we didn't have an advantage because we have a YouTube channel. It had nothing to do with family. We don't know him. It had nothing to do with money because it's a very affordable way for us to spend the summer in Alaska learning how to live off-grid.
If you are thinking about going off-grid, setting up your own off-grid homestead, we've told you you should get some experience. You're like, well, nice for you guys, you get to do this off-grid cabin thing. We actually found 3.
Yeah.
In just a month, we found 3 different ag lease, homesteading.
There's really a lot of options out there.
I actually traveled to Alaska with our oldest son and my dad to look at these 3 potential properties for our off-grid summer challenge. I have to show you, and you can spin in a circle, you can't not see a beautiful mountain.
Yeah, I see something there too. But it is very secluded. Nobody's too close, but that does look like the building over there, so. Moose, right there.
Took 10 days, snuck off to Alaska, which was super awesome. Looked at these 3 different properties.
We had to kind of see them to figure out where could we actually do something agriculture on, where would be the best place.
And we've settled on one. This summer, we're gonna be headed to this off-grid cabin on 500,
almost 500
acres.
Yeah. This is not something that we will own. The owner is definitely not selling.
It's an ag lease.
But it's a really good way for us to dip our toes because it's off-grid. There's a small solar system we can learn about. There's not much water, so we will have to figure out water and everything without having to
build the wrong thing.
Yeah, without having to build the wrong thing.
We want to get experience so that we can design with experience.
Yeah.
Look at those beautiful tomatoes.
And it gives us the opportunity, Austin called it the land of off-gridders, because in Alaska, there's a ton of people who are doing this. They're very far removed from any local utilities.
It's much more normal in Alaska. Yeah. It's everywhere.
And that's something I want to experience living in. It's like a dry cabin. What is this like? How do the kids like it? How do we all handle it? It's a nice way to do it and be in Alaska and interview other people who are already living this life.
If you are in Alaska and you would like us to come and interview you about your homestead, your off-grid cabin, your off-grid life, email me, austin@thisishomesteady.com. And if you would like us to make a video about how you could find an opportunity like we did to ag lease like we did in Alaska, we found 3 in a month. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in that video. Yeah, watch. Okay, so question bullet round. What's gonna happen with your farm that you're currently at?
Oh, that's what you mean. Because it's summer season, nothing's
Bullet
freezing.
round.
Okay, so fast.
Bullet round or is it lightning round?
Lightning round.
My bad.
That's why I didn't know what you were talking
Okay,
about.
hold on, ready? Lightning round for
I
questions.
hate when you do that. You do it all the time, and I always say I hate it.
Okay,
But
let's
we can
redo
edit that
it.
So, lightning round for questions.
Lightning round. What's gonna happen to the farm that you're currently at?
Well, because it's a family farm, we have some lovely family members who are able to watch over it for us while we're away.
What about Sunny Mountain?
Sunny Mountain, we're still working on Sunny Mountain. We actually just got done seeding over there. We'd love to see some pasture grow up, and we're leasing that to own. It's still something we're gonna hold on to.
So this summer, we're gonna do a 100-day off-grid challenge. Well, I'm super excited to tell you our 100-day off-grid challenge has begun. We had a huge journey to get us to Alaska. It was complicated. It involved driving and plane flights. It was quite a to-do. Click here to see how the journey went and our arrival to the cabin. We've actually never even seen it. What's our reaction when we see the cabin? Click here to watch the first video in the off-grid adventure.